Welcome back to the Marathon Mortgage Happy Hour. I'm Mike Witzak.
I am Rory Farrell.
And who's the guest in the middle today?
Tom Wegner.
And Tom, what team are you with?
I am with the TCS group. So we're out of the Morristown office at Keller Williams, and then we're partners with the entire TCS group over in Philadelphia.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's a pretty large group. I was telling Tom beforehand, I was like, they were my property management company for like 2 years.
Oh yeah, I think you had mentioned that when you set this up.
And I was like, I wonder if it's the same TCS, and it is. So
yeah, that's kind of, I don't know if it's the running joke, but kind of what we always say is like, there's not one thing we cannot do in real estate, whether it's property management, tenants with Rent Philly. They'll renovate a property for you too. I mean, both sides of the bridge. We just actually expanded a team in San Diego.
Oh, we can talk about that.
So that's pretty
we'll have to dive into that. That's really cool. Yeah, but anyway, as per usual, what are we drinking today?
Yeah, so actually, just on the way here, I stopped at a beer distributor and picked up Foam Brewing's. It's called Dead Flowers. Hazy IPA, 6.2%. They're out of Burlington, Vermont. So I've never had it before. So we'll do a little taste test. And we forgot glassware, so now we're doing a full pint of can. So
yeah, why not?
Here we go.
All right, well, good thing we have the koozie, and you guys got me out of my comfort zone. As we were talking about, I'm a Coors Light drinker. So.
All right, well, we'll see. If you don't like it, you do not have to drink it.
Yeah, don't feel forced.
Cheers. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Cool. So Dead Flowers, let's see. I'm going to guess it's going to have a lot of citrus, maybe some orange. It's usually we do it in a glass so you can see it. It's probably going to be a little bit hazy, a little bit opaque.
Honestly,
Tough to get the nose on it in a can.
I think you're kind of off with this one.
Oh, yeah? What do you think?
I don't know. I mean...
It's tough in a can. You're supposed to be drinking.
Well, yeah. If it's the can, then it's really the citrus part of it. There's a little citrus there for me, but I don't know.
No, I taste some orange.
There you go.
For sure.
Yeah. Give that a second to kind of settle, but you'll probably get a little bit more of it with a more open glass. So, yeah. I mean, obviously, out of a can for certain things is good, but really with a lot of things like IPAs that are supposed to have a big aroma to it. You want to drink it out of glass, and there's even specific glassware for different beer styles. So
that's why we need a Draft Top to sponsor us. Draft Top is
when you cut the little thing,
dude. I reached out to the guy. This is my own fault. I'm going to cut this clip up, and you're going to see this now. I'm going to send this to you, Mr. Draft Top. I had found the CEO on LinkedIn. I DM'd him. He DM'd me back within 5 minutes, but I never check LinkedIn. So I go back to LinkedIn like a week later, and I see he DM me. I'm like, no shit. So I like write him this whole like DM, and he never got back to me. And
hit him up on Instagram.
So I'm just gonna bother him now. But please, sir, sponsor the podcast. just send us one free Draft Top, and we'll just talk about it for the rest of our lives. So
we'll use it every time.
Yeah.
It's a little tough for now, but we'll see. Let that settle. Let the foam get out of it a little bit. But yeah, I like it. And it's one of those affordable IPA 4-packs. I think it was like $16, $18 like that. So it's not too bad.
Yeah.
It's in the range of what I'm willing to spend on a 4-pack.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Yeah. In your 30s, definitely. In my 20s, I'm like, oh, that's $18.
You'll get there, buddy.
Yeah, I'll get there one day. But anyway, let's kind of dive into the whole reason we're here. So, Tom, I guess if you want to start off, you're a special guest today. We were just talking about this right before we started filming, but like, where are you from originally? How'd you get into real estate? If you can give us a little bit of like your background.
Yeah, so originally from Northeast Philly, the Wissinoming, Frankfurt area. Grew up across from Wissinoming Playground. Went to North Catholic. From there, went to Kutztown University. Started out working with a heavy highway, big construction company. I was almost like an engineer with a marketing degree. So I was doing engineer work, but I had a marketing degree. So that went well, fit in good there. They actually slid me over to their landscape supply house. So I was actually selling, we were manufacturing bulk mulch and soils for big companies like Scott's and all the garden centers. So I was selling for them, was doing real estate with my partner, Ryan Sullivan. We were kind of buying and selling our own flips and buying holds. Was doing that for a few years, and it was kind of like, hey, we're ramping this up. Let me get my license for that reason. If Ryan was the construction side, I was going to be the real estate side.
Okay.
And then we were putting the sweat equity where, hey, weekends, nights, we were pre-kids, pre-wives, swinging the hammers, getting into it. But it was just a way for me to get quicker access to the MLS and just writing my own contracts, selling our own property. So that's really how I got started in real estate. Then it just slowly started growing into, hey, can you help me as a friend? And more business started coming from that. And it just finally reached that breaking point of I couldn't work the 6 days a week at a full-time job. Couldn't show anymore at nights and weekends. It was just, I was at capacity. And then my wife and I were starting to settle down, and I don't know if I had an aha moment or whatever it was. It was just like, all right, I have to bet on myself here. I have the business that at least I felt like I had. So kind of was like, you know what, let's jump in. I knew the contracts. I knew everything. So moved from Philadelphia to Cherry Hill, got my Jersey license. Was like, all right, that's it. Now I'm ready to go. I'll be PA, New Jersey. And then that's kind of rewind maybe 5 years ago. Nice. Is when I made that leap. It was like January 1st, no turning back.
Damn.
So then I know a mutual friend that we have, Devin, you're part of his
the harvest community,
right? Yep. So me and him have always been friends for years. And I tell this funny story. The one thing that always impressed me about him with business, when me and Ryan were doing our renovations, he would just always just stop by. And he was younger than me, but just always stop by with like a case of beer. Like, hey, guys, keep the guys working. Like, just because he wanted to learn. Yeah. So then I was kind of just impressed with kind of how he ran his business, his work ethic. So then we got together and we're like, hey, let me partner up with you. So, I mean, I'm going over this years of growth in a short window, but we started off, it was me, Devin, his wife. We always kid around. We were in the broom closet it literally on the front door, it said janitor's closet. We were in this, that was our office. It was like,
that's crazy.
This Jeff Bezos and like story of like, it truly was like, I mean, there was no mops or anything like that there, but it was like on the front door. No one knew where we were because it said janitor's closet.
That's too funny.
And then we slowly, I mean, we were just growing. We brought on one of our partners, Andy. We slowly started ramping up just on the Jersey side. And we were talking earlier, but that's when we then partnered with Garav, Ben Aller, Kate, and we merged in to become TCS New Jersey, which then outgrew itself, and now we're TCS Group.
That's killer. Damn, there's a lot to unpack there. I have so many questions. Actually, this is really
we should have taken notes. I got a couple things. I'm gonna try and keep them in my head, but you go first.
My first question was, I didn't realize you went to Kutztown. That's pretty cool. So I grew up in the Poconos. I was born in Northeast Philly too. I was in Port Richmond, but when I was like 8, moved up to the Poconos. My brother goes to Bloomsburg, and I had a lot of friends go to Kutztown. So that's where Kutztown's it's not in Stroudsburg. Yeah. It's
no, it's right between, I guess, Allentown and Reading.
That's it. Yeah,
right
exactly.
In the middle there.
Yeah. So did you ever venture up to the Poconos at all, or were you always just down at Kutztown partying?
Kutztown partying.
Yeah. Good call.
So it was always fun.
College.
We had this, and
you got to remember, he went to college virtually during COVID.
I went to college virtually for 2
didn't have
years,
the same
dude. It sucked. Yeah, it was super awesome for 2 years, and then it was like, hey, you're gonna stay home and take classes now, and I'm like, this kind of sucks.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole experience.
Yeah,
and you know it from just being from Northeast Philly, you have that connection, and that's really what we had up at Kutztown is that we just almost had this like it wasn't a frat. Like actually, the frats hated us, but we were kind of a frat in that, like, hey, there was one guy from North Catholic, there was a guy from Roman, there was a couple judge guys. We had like a neighborhood frat of all just like Northeast guys that all like
the Philly boys
merged together.
That's so funny.
So that was
you do kind of like glom on to people who you have like connections with. And
because you would have the old high school shirt and you'd be like, oh yeah, I know that,
for sure.
Oh, you know so and so, and that's we formed that bond, and that was like our own little frat.
Yeah. Nice. Kutztown, also one of the best rugby teams I've ever played, ever. They're nutcases, but that's besides the point.
Yeah, they always had the good parties. And like I said, I'm a little older than you, so it was like, it was still wild then.
Yeah.
And they always had the good spots to go.
Nice. What were some of your questions?
Well, you mentioned your partner in the very beginning, Ryan.
Yeah.
Did he have his real estate license or?
No.
Okay,
So he was a general
couple.
contractor. And again, we were young. We were 25. Obviously this is a real estate podcast, and I always say, man, that is one of the best piece of advice and examples that I could give is like, I don't know if you want to call it house hacking or just like, hey, buy that first house. Just go in and buy it. So we bought it in South Philly. We were talking about that earlier. It was prime location. It was right when the Phillies were winning all the World Series and were great.
Yeah.
So we were just young, had money. We all had jobs.
This is like 08.
08,
Yeah, like
09.
Yep.
We had a house. We rented one of the rooms to our friends. So then everyone was always over and going to the Phillies game. They just opened Xfinity, and now we have that asset. You know what I mean? So we had one of our friends pay rent. We split the difference, which between three people, it was next to nothing. And now, like I said, to this day, we still have it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did you hold on to that one?
Yeah, we still have it.
That's almost probably got some sentimental value too.
Yeah, it's hard to get rid of that. So we
And
started
the overhead
off,
on that's probably so low at this point. You're like, why get rid of it?
No, yep. And so he did the contracting side, and then I would do kind of the bookkeeping, find the properties, and then ultimately get my license to handle that part of it.
Yeah, so like the first couple, even you had someone else do the real estate transaction, and
Yeah.
they're like, "Hey, I can do this." And,
Yep.
Yeah. And then you kind of skipped over like, "Yeah, we just started buying properties." It's like, why? Like what? Like at 22 or 23, like when you were younger, like what made you think that? Did you have someone else who you were like mimicking your behavior off of, or did you have family who did it, or? Because that's, I mean,
No,
you're a very similar person, Mike. Like you're like, I'm going to buy real estate. It's a great way to build wealth, but. When I was 22, I just wasn't thinking that way because I didn't have someone to mimic that off of.
Yeah, I obviously know my answer. I've probably talked about it on the podcast, but it was just being around the people I was around that kind of got me into it. And it was just, I just so happened to be friends with people whose parents owned a lot of rental properties. And I always
And you
asked
were in the
questions.
industry.
Yeah. And, my best friend's a realtor. I ended up getting into the industry. I'm holding on to your cord there.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, that's kind of how I got into buying the rental properties, and I've always wanted to do it. But what's your story with that?
No, I mean it was just we were looking for a rental together, and then we realized it was just like, man, we could do this ourselves, and why not? Have the asset. So I don't know that it was.
And like, your parents didn't do anything with real estate? Nothing like that. It was just kind of you guys were like, hey, look, we can kind of just own this place, and we want to own this
Ballsy
place.
move at that age.
Yeah,
For sure.
Yeah, I think we just kind of jumped in. I'm trying to think back, but no, it's not as if, hey, my parents had all these investment properties or anything like that. Neither did his. They had one or two, so maybe he got a little bit and put it in my ear. But no, it was more just, I guess we seen the vision and that one then just, I don't know that we went into it like, all right, hey, let's start building a portfolio. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's a better way of answering it. We kind of went into it like, hey, let's just have this. It'll be our own little place. We'll sell it when we're done, whatever it may be. But then it just was like, all right, we had this one. We forced equity because we worked till 9, 10 at night doing all the work. Values went up. We were able to like cash out of that, buy the next one, and it just kind of it went from there.
The hurdle, right? It's like even if you're just doing it on a whim, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, like we can do this, and then the next one seems less of a hurdle, which it sounds like was your experience.
Yeah. So then that's just like, and like I said, you guys are in mortgage too. But imagine your buyer comes to you and it's like, oh yeah, I have a house I'm selling. Well, that's how they get to 20%. It's hard to save the 20%, but if you force and sell a house or have a house to sell, you can get to it much easier. So I always just coach my buyers in that just get started. It's not your dream home, your very first one. Hey, I'm not raising a family where that is. I had no visions of staying there my whole life.
No, you're 22.
It worked out.
Close to the ballpark.
Yeah, exactly.
You can have a beer and walk there. And that's
what it was. It was a 1 beer walk.
Yeah,
that's what we always kid around. It was like you finish that 1 beer and when
you
you're
tell we're the same age.
Yeah, dude,
we're on the same plane. Right?
Yeah, for sure. But no, I think that's a really important thing. It's like, hey, look, you don't need to have all this cash saved up and have your like, this is your dream home. It's like jump in, get a home, do 3% down, 5% down, like something you obviously can afford. Don't drown yourself with buying a home, but just get into like a cheaper home. It's not half bad. Fix it up a little bit in 3-4 years if you're settling down with somebody or you got kids now and you want to move out. It's like, now we have all this equity in this property. The values probably went up. It's been a solid investment. Like I didn't spend too much money on fixing it up. Boom, you sell it or you keep it if you're financially able to keep it. It's like, I think it's just an awesome move to have real estate.
Yeah.
Somebody's always going to need a place to live. So
we had this conversation with the podcast we did the other day where same thing, young guy, like a similar situation where he's like, I want to start buying. I have low overhead. I don't have a wife. I don't have kids. Like, I can do this now. And then also at that age, you're going to have roommates. Like have your roommates pay your mortgage.
Oh, for sure.
If you have a 3-bedroom place and you're living in one room, and the other two guys, they're paying your whole mortgage most likely. So you're living rent free.
100%.
And then where that doesn't work as well when you have a wife and kids.
Yeah,
Trying to buy investment properties.
No, that's what I mean. And if you think back, if I would have waited, I can't do that now.
No, it's a young man's game to start at least.
Yes, to get started.
Yeah.
Could you imagine you bought a place in San Diego back then when you moved out there?
Yeah, it was way more affordable back then.
Yeah. But like, I know it was like you're right out of college. You probably didn't have much money, but like imagine you and like two dudes like scrape together a bunch of cash and
We had a lot more money back then. We had no kids.
Yeah,
and
true.
It was inexpensive. Now I'd be renting it to my brother who lives out there, and he'd be paying my mortgage.
That'd be crazy. Yeah.
No, but and you're a poor Richmond guy, and the story relates is like how many times we were approached with like, oh, why don't you buy this house in Fishtown and fix it up? It's only $100,000. Oh, I'll never pay $100,000.
Dude, my dad tells me my dad tells me when he was younger, he's probably like 20 years old or something. He started working construction when he was 15. So he like was around a lot of people that were either like real estate investors or whatnot. He says you couldn't sell somebody a home in Fishtown for $25,000. Like they wouldn't take it from you. And now you can't touch a house in Fishtown for under $500,000.
500, right?
Like $500,000.
Well,
the heroin capital of the world at one point in time. Like,
now
crazy.
it's adjacent, but
now it's right next to it.
Like me and him went to an open house the other day where it was like Kensington adjacent.
Yeah, we went under the L. We were like in K&A. I mean, it was legit like the hood.
But there's how many units? 140?
160 or 140
beautiful units
yeah.
going up for like someone's betting on this area to turn, and it might take 20 years.
Yeah.
But someone who buys it.
Yeah, they don't flip a coin. They have some research. So something must be coming down.
You have to watch I don't know if you ever heard of the channel on YouTube. It's called Channel 5 News.
Just watch this.
Yeah, dude, the Kensington documentary. So this kid goes around like the entire country really. He interviews like very like subculture things that are going on. So he's from I think he's from Fairmount.
Fairmount, yeah.
Yeah, so he's from Fairmount. Andrew Callahan's his name. And he came back to Kensington, did like a whole interview on Kensington. And it's crazy the colleges in the area that are like buying all the land up in the surrounding areas because they know it's going to flip eventually. But they're just kind of corralling all of these people into this like 3-block square radius.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so bad because they don't have anywhere to go in the surrounding area.
Yeah, it's all concentrated.
It's nuts.
But it's for being like a very low budget documentary, quote unquote, on YouTube. It's pretty, especially where we're from.
Yeah, worth the watch.
It's pretty eye opening. Yeah,
for sure. But that's to your point, being in Port Richmond, like having that right next to you. I mean, growing up, my parents always told me like Fishtown's a horrible area, and nobody was buying homes there. And now you look at it, it's like the crazy. So you just got to know. I mean, where's your place in South Philly at? It's probably.
You have right at like Kamak in Oregon, so between 12th and 13th.
Okay, so
right
like
by Broad in Oregon.
Exactly, yeah. So, but at one point in time, that area was super nice, and then it kind of went down a little bit, and now I think 12th and Oregon, that area is like coming up a little bit now, and it's a lot nicer. But I mean, we were just talking about it out there, a couple blocks away from there. It's like,
it changes.
That's all Philly, right?
Yeah, it's all Philly.
But that's just anywhere, and it doesn't. Yeah, it was Fishtown 20 years ago, but whatever you're going to buy today, 20 years from then, the values are going to go up.
Yep,
you know what I mean?
exactly.
We know that. Hey, there might be dips, and we might be able to time the market for next year. But if you got a plan to hold for 10, 15, 20 years,
it turns around.
You know, great, they're betting on K&A.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they're planning on it's going to turn around. So if that turns around, anything can turn around.
Oh, for sure.
You bought that place, that South Philly place in 2009?
Probably 8.
So you were like kind of
7,
right
like
around the sketchy, as far as the market is concerned.
Oh, yeah, but I was so young and dumb, it didn't affect me. You know what I mean? Like, there was no crash in my mind.
Yeah.
I was fresh out of college with no money. So all the money I was making was
And you were living there, so
living.
Yeah, it's not like
You know
you
what I
were
mean? So-
trying to flip it.
And that's actually, it was perfect timing for us. And like I said, being young and dumb is like, yeah, we were getting good deals because people were in a tough spot and had to sell.
Yeah.
We had no, like, you know what I mean, restriction, no kids, no wife, no real bills.
Yeah.
And we're making that first paycheck that was like right out of college. So we were living not
You just needed
large,
a
but
little
like,
extra beer money and
Yeah.
maybe some grocery money and
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah, having fun. And then what was it like? Do you have any other things you want to touch on before I change?
Those were my two things, but yeah.
All right, cool. But what was it like when you went from, working this like engineering job with a degree in marketing and all this, and then switching to a very like customer service based industry such as real estate? Was it a hard transition for you to get into the mindset of like, all right, I'm going to start selling homes and helping buyers and doing this? Or was it a pretty easy thing for you? Are you like naturally a people person?
Yeah, I mean, I think I could have a conversation with anyone. So, and really, you always want to help the client. But I think the biggest thing that helped me, I guess, was maybe twofold. One, I had the work ethic in the sense of like I was already doing a 9 to 5, then working that second investment. So I realized and seen some of the fruits of the labor in building that portfolio. So I knew that I could bet on myself.
Yep.
So I had the confidence that, hey, if I put in the time, and I'll give the cliche answer, hey, no one's going to outwork me and all that. But it was really that I knew that I was going to put the time in and eventually it was going to pay off. And hey, just like any new agent, like when I went full time, I mean, it took me probably 5-6 months to close a deal, because now one of my roles with TCS is kind of onboarding and training some of these newer agents.
Yeah.
And I just prep them. Hey, this business is not a get-rich-quick scheme in any sense.
This is a very hard industry to be in, for sure.
So you got to grind it out. And I knew that I could. I knew that I would. And then the other thing is, like we talked about, being a people person, but I also respected and understood that this was my client's biggest purchase. So I was able to then, I don't want to say feel their pain, but it was the double-edged sword. I would lose sleep at night if, what's going on with these inspections? So it stressed me out because I was as stressed as they were. And now I've managed that better because I've been through enough transactions now, but I still always respect that and understand the emotions of it. So I think that's what helped me like accelerate fairly quickly, is that I respect and understood that this was an emotional transaction and roller coaster, that I was the conductor and I had to manage that.
For sure. That's a huge, I mean, we talk about this all the time, but there's been plenty nights of sleep I've lost over just working on clients and just wanting to do the right thing by the people. And I think
empathy, right? It's like
for sure
putting yourself in their shoes, even though it's not your deposit, it's not your inspections that you put out, it's not your life that is going to get put on hold if this doesn't close on time. It's like, but you care, like, and that's one of the things that you cannot teach in this industry.
Exactly, because it's we're not talking commission breath. I never got to be like, oh man, if this doesn't close, then I'm in trouble.
Yeah,
I just felt bad for them, and you guys seem to get it. That's what makes you good.
Yeah, for sure. That's what makes you an extremely above average realtor or an extremely above average loan officer, like somebody that really stands out in the business, because you just have to care. Like, that's really it. Like, you just have to care about your clients, want to do the right thing, and help them out as much as you can. It's like, sometimes it's really hard for some people to understand that. It just blows my mind, but and that's why I think we work so well together as an office. I'm sure you worked well with, I know Devin, now I'm like getting to know him pretty well now. It's like super stand-up people, just guys that want to help out and do right by the clients, and that's it. That's what, and it shows. I mean, you've been doing this for 5 years now, you said, right? Like full-time. This is
full time. I would say, just about 5 years.
And I mean, look at what you guys have kind of grown into. It's insane. So
we say that with contractors all the time. It's like there's so many contractors out there, and like kind of the industry standard. Again, 90% of the industry, 75% of the industry is like, we'll show up when we show up, or this, like we'll come in over budget or whatever. But like to be a good contractor, you don't even have to be a great contractor. You have to be a above par contractor who communicates, who shows up on time, who, like hits deadlines, things like that. It's kind of like us. It's like, we can take all the tests and like get the license and all that, but like to be an above, the better, top 10% of our industry, it's like, you got to care. Like, and those are things that you can't teach.
100%. Yeah. We're not performing brain surgery.
No, it's not.
I mean,
as much as I'd like to toot our own horn, it's like,
yeah.
And that's what I mean. And I always tell that to the newer agents, like, I've been through thousands of homes. I understand the ins and outs of a home, but being a good agent doesn't make you a good house shower. I don't even know if that's even a thing. It's like, no, you have to understand the contracts. You have to understand the emotions and manage that all. That's what we're doing.
And that's different every single client, every single contract.
Yes. But no, we were talking about like contractors just being a decent contractor. All you have to do is respond to my text message, show up on time. So
when you find one of those guys who will, you're my guy. I don't care how busy you are. I'm not going anywhere else. Like,
now,
that's how you build clientele in real estate. And mortgage is like, you just build this trust with this giant investment, this thing that's so stressful. It's like, if you find a good guy, a good person, you're like, all right. And that's what we run with like our clients, being newer in the business. They're nickel and diming and they're checking every eighth of a rate and they're shopping around and, $500 means everything to them, which is not a big deal. Like they're where they are in life. But then you talk to our boss and his clients will just be like, I trust you. I've worked with you 5 times. You're not going to steer me wrong. Let's do it. And it's like, you trust people once you've worked with them a couple times and they've proven that they're good people.
And that comes with time.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's all a roller coaster.
Yeah, it's a big one. And now you just mentioned that you're like in charge of onboarding. So how do you like doing that?
Yes, it's good.
Is it like a difficult thing bringing on new agents that are going to are helping them last in this business? Because I feel like I would say this, like if I didn't have the support I have around me and being in the office, I wouldn't have lasted in this business as long as I have. So what's that like? Is it a hard thing to do with new agents, or is the onboarding process kind of just like, hey, come on, we'll show you the ropes and get you started, and then it's like what you do from here on out is up to you?
No, I think the different approach that we have is that we value the person first. So if you're good mentally, if you're good physically with, a lot of the harvest coaching and just mentality.
Them boys like to work out, baby.
Yeah. But it's just more that then the business comes, you know what I mean? So we kind of go like, all right, like we have a business development or onboarding, but it's like, we want to get you right as a person. So when the person's right, the business can be right. So I think that's big. And to answer your question, I think you either have it or you don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's so many times that I'll see where an agent goes from 0 to producer overnight, and there's other ones that like they just don't, put the time in. And if they look at themselves in the mirror, it's like, look, you haven't done not what we're coaching on. I'm not trying to say, hey, I'm this, wizard that's going to coach you on it. But look, we've talked about, we're not doing rocket science here.
No.
So it's like, hey, here's what worked for me. Figure out what's going to work for you and put the time in and care. And if you grind it out, that's the person that's successful.
For sure.
So, yeah. And it's no different. Even when I bring on a new agent and we have that first meeting, it's like, look, if you join this team, I will be able to tell you, or you'll be able to tell me the top 5 producers on this whole team within 2 weeks. Well, how? Well, they're in the office. They're making the calls. They're answering the emails. They're doing the videos. They're, putting this podcast together.
Yeah.
And it's no different than your business. So it's like, that's who you're going to know who's going to, and now it takes time to build a book. It's like opening up a barbershop. It is not just going to overnight, you're going to be, wow, this is, but are you doing the open houses? Are you truly putting in the time? And we talked about this, how I got started and knew I was going to be okay, because I knew I was going to do that.
Yeah.
So that's how I coach on like, hey, if you do this, it will pan out. When? I can't tell you in a week or in 6 months, but just trust me and grind it out. It'll work itself out.
For sure. And I think that's what I had the same kind of mentality coming into it, because I was like, I'm not worried about the commission part of this. Like, oh, hey, like I don't get paid or whatever. But the thing that drives me nuts and absolutely nuts, and Rory knows this because I come to him for most of it, is like, I'll do this stuff for 2 years and you might not see something come out of it. So it's just that like waiting game of like doing the same thing. I just said this the other day. It's like it's the literal definition of insanity is what we do every day. It's like you do the same thing every day and you expect a different result, but then eventually you do get a different result.
Can you wait it out?
Can you wait it out? Can you be insane for 2 years and then wait for a better result?
And and we talked about this even before we jumped on. It's like when you go to the other offices and you see like, there's 10% of the agents are in the office.
Yeah.
And this isn't a knock on any real estate office. This is every single office.
Yeah.
But who's in the office? The producers.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's how you figure it out. It's like, hey, just watch what this guy's doing. He's producing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just looked at what Tom was doing and what you were doing. And it's like, all right, what are they doing to get this business? I mean, sometimes it's just Tom picking the phone up, but other times it's like, he tells me like all the stuff that he used to do. And I'm like, all right, well, I could do this, or I'll kind of tweak this. And then you brought the podcast idea to me and you're like, hey, why don't we do this? And it kind of just turned into having realtors on. So I think just how many different things can you gather from other people and make it into your own kind of twist?
Yeah, and like you said, put your twist on it. So like he's younger than me, and I'm the next youngest loan officer in the office, and then a couple, maybe a decade older than me is Tom. But so there's like kind of this spectrum of what works, right? And me and Tom, who are older, didn't know what worked for him or what will work for him. But social media, podcasts, like all this stuff that he's doing, all these clips, it's like now I'm learning from him and Tom's learning from him and we're all kind of like working together. And it's like there's no real recipe, but the recipe is, are you hustling? Are you paying attention? Are you watching other people, not only in our office, but in the industry? And like you said, like keeping an eye on the successful people. Exactly.
Are you being real, right? What's that line? People want to work with people they know, like, and trust.
Yep.
Well, that's reverse too. Like that's who. And so things like this podcast and when I am coaching these newer agents, like be real. Like at this stage of my career, will I work $1 million buyer? Yeah, I've worked several now. I always will, but am I going to host a yacht party with caviar? No. But same thing with your guys' twist. It's like, no, hey, I'm going to have a koozie contest where we're going to drink beer and connect with those people and have that empathy that we talked about. Like, so that's what I just try to coach on. And the people that get it and know that it's a contact sport and you got to get out there and you got to grind it out, they're the ones that are going to be successful. Yeah, so I don't have this magical, like, hey, here's how you do it. But I mean, I could show you the path that I took or the path that Devin took, you know what I mean? And it's a lot of work and a lot of persistence.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, you said, hey, do you have it or you don't? Like some people do, some people don't. But like, I mean, there's agents. I tend to, when I'm like pursuing new agents, new agents to me, I'm not adverse to going after people who've only been in business 6 months or whatever. 'Cause I've had it be where like that person 6 months in is doing the same amount of business 18 months in, a year and a half, 2 years in. That's fine. Like 1 or 2 a year, whatever. Like I'm building relationships. You never know what it's going to turn into. I've had those same 6 month in agents turn into mega producers, and they probably just have it. But they put the pieces together. And like I have 2 specifically that I'm thinking in my head. And like they've been in the industry less than 2 years and like maybe 3 to 4 years, which is like newer and they're just crushing it. And I'm like, God, thank God I like put the effort into communicating with them. And so
for sure,
you just never know who's going to pop off and who's going to have it.
Yeah. Because it's a hustle and grinding business. So there's no magic formula to get it done.
Nice. Yeah. I don't know. Do you got anything else you want to touch on, or?
Yeah,
pretty good. I told him about wins. I mean, do you have a win that you want to leave us off with here?
No, win. I know one thing that we are working on as a company. I mean, we are looking to kind of expand down the shore. So that's been a big win for us. We just had a 32 unit development down there in North Wildwood that we sold out. I mean, we sold the biggest or the most expensive house in just outside of Cape May in the Villas. So, I mean, we're really putting a strong effort on building the right team. So I would say, hey, win-wise business, that's a big win for us as we're continuing that expansion down towards the shore.
Awesome.
And you mentioned San Diego as well.
Yeah, I was just about to say.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
forgot
So
the San
that's,
Diego
I
thing.
mean, and we talked about this TCS group where it's just this big umbrella, and all the moving parts that we have, or all the parts or the pieces of the puzzle. It's like, so one division that we have is Black Label, which is, I mean, all luxury properties. And that's the same. And we talked about, hey, well, I work $1 million. Yes, but we have experts that do it every day. So we have a Black Label that we're building out. We're pushing to roll that out in New Jersey, and then they actually just rolled one out in San Diego. So that's a big expansion.
Plenty of Black Label out in San Diego. It's like everything's
Yeah.
Black Label.
Exactly. And that's what we're trying to build here in New Jersey. So that's coming down the line too.
Cool.
So that's another win
Just growth.
in growth.
One
Yeah.
foot in front of the other.
Absolute killer, dude. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. So yeah, no, but thanks so much for coming on, dude.
No, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was fun. It was easy. We like having these be easy and like kind of let that conversation flow, and it certainly did with you today. So we appreciate it, Tom.
Yeah. No, thank you guys.
Thanks so much, dude.
Cool.
All right. Cheers.
Happy
guys.
Friday.
Happy Friday.
Enjoy your weekend.